Hi everyone, thanks for being with me. It's good to sit back on a Sunday afternoon and to consider what's happening in the world, particularly what's happening in relation to the elections here in Australia. For those of you that don't know, we do have elections. They're held every 3 years, and they are absolutely boring. And most people in Australia don't care about politics. And why would we? Nothing seems to happen that's extremely damaging to our well-being. all policies that the major two parties develop are kind of designed, I guess, to help us as best as they can. Just that some parties seem to do it more than others, or at least seem to have an emphasis that is about assisting the most disadvantaged in our community. And of course, that particular party, it would be the Labor Party, or it could be the Greens, or it could be the Independents. Either way, the party that doesn't tend to want to do that as much, it isn't as enthusiastic about helping us or those people that are underprivileged, that are devalued, that feel like life is a bit of a struggle. Those people are kind of ignored generally by the Liberal Party, who are interested in, as is most conservative organisations, they're interested in small government, less government involvement in our lives, which often can penalise those people that need government the most. So that's what happens in Australian elections. So there's an Australian election right at this particular moment, or being held officially on Saturday, because we're smarter than most nations. We tend to believe that it's nice to do it on a day when people are not likely to be working, so they're more likely to be able to find that time to be able to make it to the polling booth, to have a barbecue, a sausage perhaps, a hamburger, something that they can enjoy while they wait that long line in order to be able to cast their vote. Even though I do have to add the lines are getting shorter these days, simply because early voting starts at a reasonable time period. So early voting has done, and I think probably more than 2 million people have already cast their votes at this particular point. So to some extent, for a lot of people, it doesn't matter what the government wants to say at this particular point in time, because they've already cast their vote and made up their minds anyway. But most Australians don't tend to do that until such time as they find themselves in front of a polling booth, and until they see that paper or that series of paper, including the Senate, and decide who they're going to vote for. But the interesting thing that I want to talk about today, apart from the historical aspects of voting, is that Sky News are a wee bit concerned about where this is going. And we can see the tide turning. There was a period, perhaps about 3 or 4 weeks ago, where they were pretty optimistic about the outcome for this election, but because, keep in mind, they are a right-wing media network. They are aligned to, purchased by, run by and authorised by none other than Rupert Murdoch. So given all of that, they are here to try and convince their audience that the only people that they could vote for are Conservatives. Now, to be fair, they're having a bit of a hard time with this at the moment. They're struggling, because what has come to their realisation is that the Liberal Party under Peter Dutton isn't doing too well. They are struggling somewhat. So I guess they're a bit disheartened by all of that, because that's what the polls are specifically showing. And I'm going to take you to a video of my friend Andrew Bolt, my mate, my buddy, a person who I dislike intensely. But nevertheless, he's someone that I respect for his lack of, insincerity, I guess. So I'm going to play this post, or this section of a Sky News broadcast in Andrew in the Bolt report, which indicates, I guess, where they're coming from. And he does interview another one of his clowns from Sky News, Rowan. And you'll see that they've got nowhere to go, absolutely nowhere to go. And I think, from my perspective, it's a humorous take on a humorous situation by a humorous and quite inconsequential, I think, network. So here is Andrew Bolt,
gun presenter of Outsiders on Sky News every Sunday at 9 a.m. and host of his own show on Fridays at 7 p.m. Rowan, you know how to make an ad. You know how to run a campaign, an advertising campaign. I've said for many weeks the Liberals needed a simple message, a narrative, something like...
I like the idea now that Andrew has decided that he's going to start to issue his advice to the Liberal Party because, see, up until this point, they've been highly critical of the Liberal Party, highly critical of the Labor Party because they figured the Liberals were doing so well. Now that the Liberals are not doing as well, they have to change their tune.
Promising, to keep you safe at home and safe in the world, like cut the cost of living, fight crime, strengthen our military. Instead, I had to edit it right back, a grab bag of unrelated promises.
Yeah, Andrew, and the problem was you're absolutely right. The Liberals don't have a narrative, but more importantly, Andrew, they don't have a verb. You have to have a verb if you're going to be...
I love the fact that Rowan Dean, if one did peer through one ear, I'm sure you'd be able to see through to the other side. There's just not much happening there. And this is a prime example of the vacuum.
Getting people to vote for you. So stop the boats. It was a verb. You have scrap the carbon tax. It was a verb. Both those verbs were actions that had to be done. And more importantly, they were actions from an ideological point of view. So you could only stop the boats or scrap the carbon tax if you were on the Liberal coalition side of politics, because the left, the Labor and the Greens are ideologically opposed to those positions. So the beauty of those slogans, and those slogans, Andrew, terrified the Labor Party, because if you remember afterwards, everyone, and including Malcolm Turnbull, mocked Tony Abbott and his three-word slogans because they were so effective. They were effective because they had a verb, i.e. they had an action that you had to think about, and they had an ideological position that their opposition, the Labor Party and the Greens, could not adopt. Now, I've said all along that, and same with Say No to the Voice, it was the same thing, a strong action, say no, with an ideological position that Labor could not adopt. There's no way the left or Labor could have ever said say no to the voice. So you've got yourself a unique position. You have to have a unique selling proposition with a strong verb.
And what they're basically saying is that they just don't have a strong position, that they appear weak, that they have no substance to what it is that they're offering. And as a result of that, they need to, as the third layer here says, Bolt coalition needs to perform better. Yeah, they do, if they wish to win. And Peter Dutton is the stumbling block. It's really, really that simple. So I wanted to play another video from Andrew because I like him. And because on this particular one, he was trying to find a way by which he could criticise Albanese. And they've been struggling to do this over the last couple of weeks. So in this particular instance, he chooses the death of Pope Francis because there is nothing more contentious than Albanese, a Roman Catholic, commemorating a person whom is Catholic and who Albanese admires. And so this is Andrew Bolt's effort to try and turn this into an election type issue, or at least, I guess, a criticism of Albo.
The Prime Minister today said he was suspending campaigning this morning out of respect for the death of the Pope.
You almost hear contempt in his voice, like, why would you suspend election campaigning out of respect for the Pope?
And that's not true.
No, of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. It's not. It could not be true that Anthony Albanese is doing something that is respectful. No, that cannot be true.
It's another Labor untruth. What you instead saw today was highly political campaigning, Labor very calculatingly showing it is a friend of Christians and turning the Pope into a saint of the left, particularly a saint of global warming. Anthony Albanese did it yesterday and again this morning, but he wasn't campaigning, was he?
And he asked the world to hear the cry of the earth, our common home. He invited world leaders to join him and to quote him, emerge from the dark night of wars and environmental devastation in order to turn our common future into the dawn of a new and radiant day. He was tireless in advocating for the powerless, campaigning against poverty, for the rights of working people, and for protecting our natural environment.
And Albanese even suggested that he himself was a believer.
Look, I try not to talk about my faith in public. At times like this, I think what people do is they draw on who they are.
So I don't want to pay too much attention to it, but at the end, it is shameful that Albanese might choose to commemorate the Pope, to recognise the good things that he did. And some of those were about climate change and about ending wars and about looking after the poor and the most vulnerable people in our community. This is who the Pope was. So how dare, though, Albanese use this opportunity to talk about the Pope in that way? I do not know what Andrew Bolt expected him to say. I am bewildered by the stupidity that is Sky News, Andrew Bolt in particular, Rowan Dean, well, what can I say, the vacuous individual, but I'm bewildered by what it is they expect to gain from this. Do they believe, for whatever reason, that the Italian community or the Roman Catholic community are uniquely their domain? That anybody who says anything or speaks to that community, who watch, I don't know whether they watch Sky News or not, don't know the demographics, but do they believe, for whatever reason, that those people are watching their channel and will be impacted by what Anthony Albanese says about the Pope? I personally don't think so. But nevertheless, that's kind of where they're at. And the other one that I want to talk about is also my other favourite commentator from Sky News, and this is Sharry Markson. Now, there is a post which I couldn't find, which I thought I recorded, but apparently I didn't, and it was in relation to Sharry suggesting that the polls are wrong, because Sharry, for whatever reason, has the inside information around all of this, because like most reporters, and particularly Sky accolades, she is a person who's highly informed, knows lots and lots of people. And so there's this interesting article in The Guardian that says Sharry Markson's exclusive inside information puts coalition in pole position. She did. And she gave this, I wish I could have found it, because it's the most convoluted example as to why the polls are not accurate. It's because the number of people that they poll, per the areas that they poll, they're not polling specifically in seats that are at risk, and so on. This is her argument. Now, I need to say that because pressed the wrong one. I need to say that because I am a very focused individual when it comes to politics in particular, that I watched a speech, I guess, given by three pollsters to the press club during the week. And one of the interesting things that came from that is the level of polling that they do, and that they will declare that it's not all that accurate, but it's not bad either. It's not totally inaccurate, for that matter, but it gives us a sense as to what direction that they're heading in. So in this particular article, she says, thumb in the wind, exclusive truth about election polling revealed was her ticker on this. As the polls continue to indicate Labor is ahead of the coalition, Sharry Markson has the exclusive inside information, certain to cheer up her viewers on Sky News Australia. Now, this is what she says, now, tonight I'm going to tell you how the polls you're reading in the news are wrong when it comes to this federal election and what's really going on here. Polls are simply a national survey of around 1,300 or so voters. It is likely a thumb in the wind to see the national mood. The Sky News host assured voters the national polls favoured Labor were inaccurate and the Liberals' internal polling of individual seats indicates Dutton is within touching distance of forming a government. Marston also, it doesn't say he's in front or anything, for somehow she's in polling position to form a government. Marston also said it's worth keeping in mind that the people behind Newspoll are being paid by Labor probably millions of dollars. Newspoll may not be owned by News Corp anymore, but it is still published exclusively by the Australian and Murdoch press, blah, 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 blah. So we've got this, so what we've got is this interesting spin, which is about Andrew Bolt and others, Rowan Dean, suggesting that the election's going in the wrong direction, and these are the reasons why. So we don't find them distinctly criticising Peter Dutton, even though they probably should be, but they know that it's not turning out as they would like. So they're preparing their audience to the fact that they might lose, and that at the end of the day, if they lose, I can assure you, it will be Anthony Albanese, the winner. It will be his reason why they lost, because he lied, or he did something else, or whatever, or because he conned the people, or he put up a scare campaign. There will be an interesting reason why they lose. Now, I just need to say before I go that I don't necessarily believe that that the Labor Party will win. What I believe will happen, and I hope will happen actually, is that independents will have a fair suck of the sav at polling booth, and they'll be able to realise that, people will realise that independents play an important part in our electoral structure, and as a result of that, they should be given an opportunity to represent their community in the way their community expects to be represented. And we also need to remember that a lot of young voters are voting for the first time, and many of them are out of favour with the major parties. So let's see what happens, and we won't hold our breath, but I'm sure it'll be something quite exciting. And please remember to subscribe to my channel, ring the bell for further notifications, and make sure that you're in tune and you share some of these wonderful posts that I do. I really would appreciate it. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.